The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation. Simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any conversation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home song garment, the Boricua with the build, the true living God, stepping in score, Sunyas Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low, and we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And as I always say, this show is about my element of hip-hop, what I like to call the writer of art on art on art, and science on music. The only show in history on this hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of over a quarter century, helped to pioneer. Oof, man. But, yo, I got books out, Filtered Real, Essays from the Invisible Renaissance, out on paperback at Amazon. You can email me at sunyas97@gmail.com for that, or go to Sunyas at on Instagram, or Sunyas7 on Twitter, and DM me for it for your own autographed copy. Also got, a couple of PDF books, but I got some. We got a nice one coming soon. I'm not gonna say any details about it, but it's gonna be real nice. It's gonna have a nice, colorful color, and it's gonna be some ill shit written in it. Continuing this legacy. So there's a lot of works that I have coming, a lot of new books coming for the end of the year and the year upcoming. Yo, got to give a quick shout out to my brother DJ Toshi, who I co-host DJ Toshi's Classic Storm Radio with. We're starting on our next show. I'm not gonna say who the guest is just yet. Guests. We had one. We got 50% of the guests down. So, but check out the latest show, 296, man. We did it with the legendary Bumpy Knuckles. You know what I mean? The OG was really building, and he had some great answers that he's never really gotten those questions, so he couldn't have gotten those answers. So new shit on that. So go to DJ Toshi Classic Storm. You know what I mean? Podomatic, you know what I mean? And check that episode out and all the others. You know what I mean? Also, man, if brothers are on my social media and know me locally, you know what I'm saying? They know that I also do martial arts training sessions. I have a introductory martial arts course for the avid martial artists, those who want to be a martial artist, those who want to continue in different disciplines, who never did Shaolin Kung Fu, who never did Wing Chun. I'm teaching that too, so contact me in the DMs and the email, sunyas97@gmail. If you're in the New York City area, you definitely can inquire about the training rates and all that. Also, if you're way out of town, you know what I'm saying? You're in another state, out of this country, whatever, man. I'll do a Zoom session with you, you know what I mean? I'll show you how to kick ass, though. You'll be like Ralph Macchio, though, you know what I mean? Learning that shit from too far away, you know what I mean? But it works, though. It works because I know what I'm doing. But if you don't believe it, though, check out them clips, man, this there. I've been training for a long time, half my life, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to impart, a lot of stuff that goes along with the training, and you definitely get yourself in shape because it's a full training program. And as I always do, I always alert you to the last show we did, man, my 100th episode, Bones Malone and Rudy Lowe, man, that was a lot of fun, man. So go back. There's a lot of history in there, a lot of homage, and, a lot of celebration, man. But, yo, we have a guest with us, our guest for this episode is, to me, what's been bothering me a lot about hip-hop. I'm not doing this on purpose, I've been saying some things about how hip-hop hasn't really had, 2020, during COVID, they've been really detailing things, the experience that we've been going through. But once 2021 came, they're just, back to lavish shit. Everybody's balling all of a sudden. Nobody minds getting shot up with 1 million vaccines and experimental medicines. You know what I mean? So a lot of pathetic things going on. Now, one of the brother I'm about to build with here, to me, is one of the great revolutionary MCs. You know what I mean? Real, the epitome of the anthem music. You know what I mean? On all levels, and he's never had the. I don't think anybody's ever really taken the time to go through his catalog, get some insights from his catalog, insights about his work, and insights about one of my favorite albums to come out though the last 2 years. 21st Century Blues, produced by Baby J. You know what I mean? So do we have the great Ness on the line now? Peace, peace,
Peace, peace.
peace to the God, man. Peace to the God. You know what I mean? We had some technical difficulties, but we were all I kept thinking was we making something out of nothing, something out of nothing. I was like that.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know what I mean? We tired of suffering. Ain't no future in your front, and you know.
At all,
Oh
at all.
man, Ness. Before I even begin, to extend this intro, Ness. You know, you're an anthem maker.
You're an anthem maker.
The anthems, are just off the chain. You know what I mean? In a career that's diverse, filled with progressiveness, and one of the things I want to go through is your whole career, and kind of highlight the career, of Ness, and really kind of get it down. You know what I mean?
All right, let's build, G,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
It's an honor to be here.
Oh man, definitely, definitely. You know what I mean? And in a time where people are, people listen to albums and they're already outdated, after 2 weeks, and they don't even promote it. You're promoting your latest album, a year later, and it's really that good. And I was like, I wrote about it in my last book, The Reel of 2020. I wrote about it. I looked through my files, man, and I've been writing about your work though forever though. Alikes, the Weekend Money Project, all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And
Yes, sir.
I wanted to start with a general question. You know what I mean, about the origins and the specific origins of Ness, and basically saying that the songs that you're gonna make are gonna mean something deeper. And when did that start happening? Because not, we all pick up this hip hop shit. It doesn't mean that we're gonna have these monumental things to say. Just kind of expressing ourselves. But every song that I've ever seen you have recorded has meant something profound. When did this all start? Where like you realize you have the gift for that, one, but also the desire to do that.
Very good question, brother. Uh, I would say being first and foremost a how do I say it? A
Mm,
fan. You know what I mean? As a kid, and I don't like using that word fan, but most people understand what that means.
mm-hmm,
I just loved hip hop in a way that was personal to me. It wasn't just entertainment. It wasn't just as a kid. It wasn't just something that I gravitated towards only because it was cool. It encompassed um, all the things that were important to me, which was street culture, um, like cool energy, identity, like knowing who you are and lionizing your own self, like coming up in hip hop, and education in the sense that we're gonna talk about something and we're gonna learn something from this art form.
mm-hmm.
And like I was just I was just a kid in Philly coming up, listening to all of the greats from the late '80s, early '90s, mid '90s, and I wanted to be a part of that. You know what I mean? It was like an exclusive club that I wanted to be a part of.
Mm,
I wanted to be one of the griots. One of the people spitting, talking about real stuff. And for the longest time, even before I decided to do it, I looked at it like hip hop could have a very braggadocio, like I'm this, I'm that, this is what I do type energy. And there were definitely some artists before this artist I'm about to mention that were more than just entertainers. You had the KRS Ones, the Rakims, the Big Daddy Kanes, the X Clan, the Public Enemies. But for my specific like class of kids, Nas was the one that kind of just made me go, oh, that's a format of how I would, like I get it, I get it. Like you still got swag, you still cool, you still in the street, but there's something more. You know what I mean? And I think listening to Nas's first album
Mm.
or album made me go, you know what? I kind of want to spit this street poetry too. You know what I mean? And that was from there. From there, I always tell younger artists, there's nothing wrong with having icons or having, artists that you learn from. There's a fine line between just straight jacking, biting, and being inspired by, someone. And Nas was that one for me.
Mm.
Obviously, there was a bunch of other hip hop artists that had that, but Nas is, made me go, you know what, I'm putting a pen to paper. You know what I mean? I like telling stories. You know what I mean? I like building. So I think that's the foundation. And then, linking up with my homies, Stick M1 from Dead Prez, along with
Mm-hmm.
my partner in A Likes, K, A Black, Karam, and some of the other brothers that we was running with, brothers and sisters that we was running with. It was kind of like that was our mo. That was our crew. That's how we moved. You know what I mean? As opposed to, every crew has an inner competition or inner, like, yo, I want to be dope like my brother. You know what I mean? Still sharp and still situation. And our thing, our battleground of life or death wasn't, are you going to talk about the most, you have the most money, or you bag the most girls, or you the hardest, or like all that was secondary to like, you know, revolution. You know what I mean? Self determination,
Mm-hmm.
community empowerment. I mean, for a lot of people, know Dead President's work and knows that material. A lot of people also know A Likes and a lot of stuff that I did earlier in my career,
Right, right.
and that that was what we was trying to do. We was trying to build. We was not even trying to build. We was building, but more importantly, the music was more than just music. It was like it was a bat signal. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It was like we was throwing it up. Like anybody who's on this wavelength, like tune in so we could mobilize. You know what I mean? So start out with that, and then I think it evolved from that. Being almost like a tangible, like battle cry, organizing tool to just being, a, a storyteller. You know what I mean? A poet, a storyteller, if you will. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, just some thoughts about these albums, and when you look back on them, um, I look through my collection and I see ALX's Live or Die album. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
remember getting that album. I remember getting that album, and I was like, we already were waiting. I think I got it when we already knew that I Eat You Eat was gonna come out. And I
Right,
was like,
right,
wow,
right.
this is gonna be a crate right here, the Live or Die. You know what I mean? And when I've called the 2000s. Everybody knows when I talk about it, I call the 2000s the dark ages, and
Oh, okay.
things
I
got.
seen that. I seen you. I saw you post something about that, and I was like, I was trying to figure out like what exactly when was the Dark Ages, but that's
Right, right,
real.
right. I
That's
started
real.
calling the dark ages the 2000s because of everything I was dealing with in the media, the commercialization that they were, the approach of the media, but also the dilution of the music. You know what I mean? In
Right.
general, you know what I mean? A more poppy sound, a more a diluted hardcore sound as well. And all those things. And then so many great MCs that don't get their light in higher forms. You know what I mean? And when you guys came out, likes though, there was such a even more so to me, because everybody immediately compared you to Dead Prez, but there was such a way of putting the hooks together, putting the sounds together, and the rhythms. You know what I mean? It was uncanny for, like, honestly, just put it simply, like East Coast music. You know what I mean?
right.
don't really have that sense of rhythm and timing on the choruses and stuff, you know. And then so when you look on making these albums and stuff like that, you know what I mean. What's the immediate look back when you look at those albums, Live or Die, especially, as we start.
Um, first and foremost, am I clear? Can you hear
Oh
me
yeah,
clearly?
definitely, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. So first of all, man, I appreciate you, Sinez. Like, I've been building with you also, throughout the years at different show improves, at
Absolutely.
on the street, or different shows, and you've always showed so much love and attention. And like you pay attention, man. Like you soak it up, and you're not one of these industry type journalists that if it's the hot thing of the month or whatever,
Hmm.
you tuning in, and if it ain't, you kind of treat me to the side. Like I'm, I would consider myself, if I didn't actually, you know, write raps and make songs and all that. Like I probably would have been like, yo, I want to be a hip hop journalist because I appreciate the craft of this, the culture of this, and all that. So
Hmm.
when I see my air likes in that, like really listening and really like paying attention, like I appreciate that. And then to get that love and that, like, yo, God, that was a good album. I listened to the project and you mentioned songs, and that's the type, that's a battery in the back for MCs. I personally myself and my crews, we've always gotten love from many people uh, throughout the years, but I pay attention when I hear someone's actually listening. You know what I mean? Like when I say I pay attention, if you throw love just for the sake of being like, yo, bro, I know you working hard at it, good job type,
Hmm.
people tend to have good words. But my point is I appreciate those that know what's up for real. And so you're asking about Live or Die. Pardon the detour.
No, that's
But
peace. That's peace.
Li- Live or Die was a project that was made during a very innocent time in my life, in the sense that I was, I'm still a kid for the most part, but I was about to have my first seed. That was like, about to happen, and it was kind of like I put my like, me and Kay, we had a couple mixtapes before then. We started getting a little love in the underground.
Right,
We did
right.
unsigned hype in the source. We had a demo that was like circulating through the industry, like different record labels, and a lot of people would just come up to me almost on some like, "Yo, bro, I heard the project." So we kind of felt like it was the first project that people were like waiting for. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So we
Hmm.
really wanted to put a lot of time and energy into it, and just make something dope, make something real. K, you know, K K was, you know, I don't want to say my like sensei in this, but he's a little older than me. And sensei, as you know, means one who came before. And he put me on a lot of game, a lot of technical hip hop like patterns and how to construct certain songs. And
Mm.
when I first met him, the first the first this is in Tallahassee, a couple years before that. I remember um, he had let me hear a song that he was writing. This is before me and him was a group, and he had a song called "I Need Somebody to Talk to." That was that. I remember I said, "What's the name of the song?" He's like, "The name of the song is I Need Somebody to Talk to." And I was like, "This hard street knowledge seed brother is
Right.
about to bless me with a song called "I Need Somebody to Talk to," and he spit it. And I forget the exact words, but I remember like the first thing was like, "I need somebody to talk to, conversate nights about my plights, and always sharing insights, and something, 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 something." I forget the rest of it,
Mm.
but it was basically he was talking to his wisdom, or talking to a potential partner that like a woman that he's building with. Like that's the game. That's his quote unquote game. Like I'm not trying to smash off top. I'm not coming at you sideways. I really want somebody to talk to, somebody I could connect with, whatever, whatever. And when he said that, I was like, and the way the chorus was, it sounded like a Mobb Deep course, but on some personal, intimate, like, man and woman having a real conversation type thing. And I was just like, all right, no doubt. And the next thing I was like, I want to write a verse to it. He was like, all right, write a verse to it.
Mm.
I wrote like a 50 bar, something crazy long thing. He's like, bro, you gotta like cut it down because it's too long. And he's like, this is how you count bars. And I did like a 16. You want to do a 16 and all this other stuff. But the reason why I mentioned that is you mentioned that like our hooks
Yeah.
and the way we format stuff. Like I would say that was an amalgamation of that structure that K the foundation he came where you had what I mean he rhymed with as a younger dude he rhymed with Kane Big Daddy Kane and just he just had like an official original hip hop like format in his head that kind of became the foundation for the A-like sound. And then I brought my energy into it with slightly different rhyme schemes. I would mutate certain rhymes where instead of perfect rhymes, I would like kind of like how Prodigy would do, like take a word and it kind of rhymes, but it don't rhyme exactly.
Right.
So
right.
what? It's really what I want to say. So I would say, Live or Die was kind of like our first album. You know what I mean? Even though we had other projects, mixtapes and stuff. And they always say that your first album is kind of like an album you've been making your whole life. And I think, it was that. We were trying to put, our life to that point in a record. And just some other background that Baby J, the producer that produced my latest project, 25th Century Blues, he produced that project, or he produced most of that project. And he had been coming over from the UK. He's from the Midlands, this town called Derby in the UK. And he was coming over back then, early 2000s. You know what I mean? We couldn't send files over Google Drive. We couldn't email everything. Or we could have, but not really. Like, the technology wasn't there. So he was flying over from the UK to the States with mad equipment, like dumb heavy equipment, like 3-4 bags. We would meet him at JFK and just, boards and different things that he would come over and record. And I'm pretty sure that Live or Die was recorded some in Brooklyn, some in Jersey City, at an apartment that he got for like 3 months, because you can only be here for like 3 months if you're not from here, the whole whatever. So he came over, he's like, we're going to record a project. He was sending over like CDs, like mailing CDs of beats, and we was doing a lot of, transatlantic, communication and sending stuff over. So we was writing to it, and then when he came over, we just locked in and we started, recording what for us at that time was like our life's manual. So yeah, that was a special time. I think back to that time. Another, not to get long winded, but another thing, the cover of Live or Die was actually, and this is a whole crazy story, but I'm gonna say it as short as possible.
Yes.
We had a photo shoot in Brooklyn on Dean and Bedford at my man Tahir's crib that we were gonna do for the album. We were like, yo, the album's done. We want to bring all the people on me, RBG, homie. Let's get up and let's take pictures for this album. Stickman came through, Stick came through, Umi, my man D-Don, I think Nim was there, a few other people were there. And we were all posing in front of my man's apartment, just kind of like, just doing what we do in hip hop, like posing, showing camaraderie, some candid shots, throwing up the RBG bandana, red, black, and green bandana, showing our solidarity with the diaspora, you know what I mean, doing all that. And police somehow got a wind of it. I don't know if somebody called them, can't remember, or maybe they lied, because not too long after we started, taking the pictures, 2 police officers pulled up, was like, hey, so we got a call that there's some like gang activity outside the building. What are y'all doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are y'all doing out here? He's like, we taking some pictures. Obviously, we keep limited words with the police just because it's not like from a criminal standpoint. It's just like ain't really much to talk about. We ain't doing nothing that is of your concern. So like, whatever. And we weren't too aggressive with it. We were really cool. We figured they'll see what's going on and keep it moving. Them two cops they wasn't really in tune with that energy. They were like, nah, look, y'all gotta disperse. You can't be out here taking pictures, whatever. He's like, this is my man's residence. We're allowed to be outside the residence, right?
Mm.
They're like, look, you want to get smart with, smart mouth. We gonna call for backup, or you're gonna go to jail. Something I forget what they said. Couple minutes pass by. They start, talking to their walkie-talkies. It seemed like half the precinct came out.
Wow.
So it was like there was just, police from both sides of the street, and the sergeant comes up, big, pig-looking white boy, was just like, all right, now enough's enough. Y'all gotta get out of here. Like we don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? And I remember Stick. I started kind of getting, I felt responsible because it was my, our photo shoot. So I'm like, yo, what's the problem here? And kind of approaching them with a certain amount of aggression in my voice and annoyance and all that. And I remember Stick he kind of like did his like almost peace sensei energy, like chill, man.
Mm.
And he stepped up to the sergeant, like, look, we're here, we're guests of this tenant from this building. We're out here, we're minding our business. There's nothing, we're not doing anything illegal. Like, we want to continue. Dude kind of like stepped back for a second and was like, he was processing it. Then long story short, he was just like, nah, if y'all don't move, if y'all don't get out of here, everybody's getting arrested. So we just stood our ground, and within 30 seconds, they started trying to put cuffs on everybody, kind of manhandling everybody.
Wow.
I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but in the thing, I ended up getting like, they said I assaulted the officer. They said my man assaulted the officer. Cats got bruised up. It was a tussle trying to basically stand our ground, but we ended up getting arrested and taken to the precinct. We was at the precinct. The police officers were like, maybe like 30 minutes in, they were like, what are y'all, Malcolm X or something? There's like a crowd outside of the precinct for y'all.
Oh, shit.
And yeah. So yeah, it ended up being a whole thing. I said it was going to be a long story short, but it ended up being like press got involved. Like it was in the Source, Double XL, a lot of, different, publications. I think New York Times. I think my daughter, like last year was like, Dad, I saw something on Google of you getting arrested at some photo shoot or something on New York Times. I was like, yeah, that was a long time ago. But that was the story of the photo shoot for that album.
Wow,
so it's just like,
that's wild. That's wild right there.
Yeah.
And to close, this album still has like, it had such great stuff to mine through and listen back to, like the great anthem FTP, which definitely would have been nice if it was playing while that was happening, right?
Right.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Just great stuff, you know what I mean? And for those that don't know ALX or just revisiting them, like this is why I'm going back, because there's such a living reality with your music, you know what I mean? I guess one of the things I want to ask you, looking back on I Eat You LP, was it was definitely one of the few albums in the 2000s where I knew it was coming, and I was very, very satisfied with what I heard, you know what I mean? And the first thing I want to ask you is, like, looking back at one of the rare, I think honestly not rare, probably the only artist I could think of that wasn't Wu related, like part of the Wu affiliates or fam like that directly, that had such great insights from Papa Wu, you know what I mean, on their album,
Right.
And Remembered Imperfection, Freedom Allah, man, because I miss him like crazy, man.
Miss him too, man. I miss him so much right now, man.
Yeah.
Like, what's crazy? Like, it's crazy. You mentioned Papa Wu. I just had a death recently in my family. My older brother just passed away.
Yes, my condolences.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. And I'm in a space in my life right now where I'm just reflecting like I've always been a very reflective person as a kid. Like I can think back as a kid, it's the same mind as a kid that I am now. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm a kid, I'm a child, and I'm thinking like children thoughts. Like I was always reflecting on a lot of things, but with the passing away of just so many, you know, good people in my life, like it brings about certain emotion and
Mm.
certain perspective on what our time on this planet is about. And you hear these cliches of like, live in the moment, cherish every second, and all these axioms like that, and just words that they don't hold as much weight until you start either facing death yourself in a real way, as in your own death, or people around you. And Papa Wu, I remember when he transitioned, um, it felt like my uncle,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, you know, passed away, and I was a fan of Wu, like heavy. You know what I mean? I like Wu, and I love Papa Wu's words. Like I always felt like he was like a larger than life figure as a brother. Coming up in this hip hop game, in this hip
Mm.
hop culture, and we knew him through through the nation. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think Supreme, our manager Supreme, was the one who like linked it up, and we would just always build with Papa Wu just randomly about whatever. Like it wasn't like, oh, I want to get him on a record or nothing like
Mm.
that. Just I'm in the presence of you know Almighty, like the OG of OGs. You know what I mean? Like Wu's, they're older than me, so I just felt like when it's your OG's OG, it's nothing but reverence. And I don't know whose idea it was. It might have been Supreme's idea, and we were just talking about it. But he was like, "Let's get him on the record," and kind of like how you said it. Like, wait, we're gonna get Papa Wu talking on our record, but we not Wu Tang.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, but we're not Wu. But you know how it is. Like we all family, and he was more than willing and ready.
Mm.
And he came through the studio. It wasn't rehearsed or planned. We had a few songs that we were like, I think you know some words would go good here. The song Heaven at the end of the album. It wasn't the last song at
Right.
the time,
Right.
but we put him on that. And after he spoke on that song and blessed us, we were like, that's how the album's gonna end. And then the other different things were just him just building. Like I think we just turned the mic on and said just build, and we ended up cutting up certain parts for it. But yeah, man, IUE, and there's a few people that aren't with us in the physical that were on that record, and I reflect on that. Like I actually listened to IUE after Papa Wu passed, and was just
Mm.
like tears in my eyes, like real rap, like just
Word.
was distilling, just sitting there like my wifey come in the room, like everything okay, babe? I'm like, yeah, it's amazing, it's beautiful right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to my uncle Bill, and I can hear him forever. And I hope, not hope, but the intention with this music thing is that it carries on, this hip hop thing, that it carries on, and it has a place in other people's lives. So that's my that's what I yeah, that's what I want from that, and I appreciate you for paying attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell people that the things that Freedom said on records, that's really how he built. Like the little snippets that we hear on records, including what he gave you guys on IUE, they were literally like longer plus lessons that go attached to him. That he would give you. And well, the guy was impeccable. He was supreme. You know what I mean? And yeah, man. Just saying, man. I've said this a lot when people ask me. Like the last thing that Papa Wu said to me was "I love you." So that's how I remember
Wow,
him. You know what I mean? So
wow,
yeah,
wow, wow.
yeah, that was the last thing he said to me. So I was leaving the school, I was teaching, and I was leaving, and that's what he said. He gave me a hug, and that's what he said. So he really he really had that energy, and you guys captured it beautifully. I love, over time, the I Eat You Eat, this stuff by A likes, and for the listeners that are listening, like, yo, these works that A likes have, they're not just like good militant works, because it's tough times now, and it's cool to be militant, or maybe it's necessary. So maybe Sunyas is bringing up Ness, and A likes. Nah, these are really scores to my life. You know what I mean? During the 2000s, there were a lot of magazines that wouldn't let me write about certain artists, so I spent a lot of time off print. You know what I mean? And these were the records I was listening to, saying, "Yo, this you don't hear about this. All I could do is play the records. Like it was alone time. Like there was nowhere to put this stuff in. You know what I mean? No place that would hold the words that I had. You know what I mean? And
Right.
these were my scores. Like what you guys were saying, I was like, yo, that's what I would say. Like when you guys, seeing you guys perform, They Want to Murder Me, to me is a classic. I was like, wow, that carries the whole essence of what we're dealing with. You know what I mean? Like that hasn't
Indeed.
changed. You know what I mean? Like the emotions and focus, like that's warrior music. Where you hear the real life that we're living, but it gives you a focus. Just great stuff. And I think the musicality of this album really lasts, you know what I mean, over time, more than I appreciated even back then, you know?
What's crazy. So as much as Live or Die was like our first album, as in we made a body of work that wasn't a mixtape and our own beats and all
Mm-hmm.
that. IU was our first industry album.
Right,
That
right.
was we had got our record deal from Nervous Warner Brothers, Nervous Records / Warner Brothers / Gorilla Nation, our label. Our lawyer told us, he was like, instead of signing directly to them, why don't y'all like form a company and they'll do a distribution, some situation. But it was our first project that my homies in Philly and my mom and my sisters and people that weren't like in the music game were gonna see on shelves in the stores, like Sam Goody or Virgin Megastore or whatever,
Mm.
right? And uh, similar to how we felt with Live or Die, like it was similar to with IUE. It was like this is our first album that the world at large is gonna hear, and we had the same energy of like you know it's almost like Live or Die was our trial run to do our first album, and then once we got a big budget and all that, now we can not only have an amazing producer like Baby J produce on it, or Stick, who was our homie. We could start reaching out to some of the best hip hop producers for the style of music that we wanted to write, and we just reached out to some heavy hitters that I'm glad I had a budget so I could throw them some real bread. Fourth Disciple,
Mm-hmm.
DR
Ayatollah.
Period,
Yeah.
Ayatollah.
Mm-hmm.
Stick blessed us with a bunch of amazing records. Stick is one of my favorite producers for a long time. I can't. There's a bunch of other producers. My man Fetty G, a few other producers that were amazing. Bilal, the R&B singer from
Mm-hmm.
Philly, he hopped on it. Maya Center. I'm just off the top of my head, but we put a certain amount of energy into it to kind of like we weren't thinking commercial records and nothing like that. But 50 Cent just was kind of running things at the time, and I think I remember hitting up D Prosper, my man Price from Soul and the Horn and all that. I think he was like A&R for G Unit, and I was like, yo, we want throw us some G Unit beats. We want to throw the revolution on that. We want to throw this, what I mean? What we build about, we want to throw it on them beats too. And we got some beats from that. But long story short, we just zoned out and really, came with something that we thought was important for the people to hear, something that meant something to us. And a lot of people, compare us to Dead Prez because we're in the same, family. Um, and obviously, we're all unique, and the groups within People Army, RBG have their different nuances. And I think the mix of the influence from our family, from our comrades in this music thing, mixed with just our taste. You know what I mean? We love Mobb Deep. Like a lot of people also was like, y'all remind me of like a revolutionary Mobb Deep. Like that's not a coincidence. I love Prodigy and Havoc and
Mm-hmm.
how they approach records and how it was like rap, but they were almost talking to you in a deadpan, like little bit of inflection, but not like, you know what I mean, not show busy uh, type energy. Like really like, yo, I'm in your ear telling you this real rap right here, bro.
Mm.
And I'm coming to you in a certain way that it's gonna make you feel like it's as authentic as I mean it. You know what I mean? Because it's not gonna have all this like glitz and glamour on it. It's not gonna have all this like pomp and circumstance on it. It's just gonna be like straight at you. So a mix of all that, we just zoned out, man, and super proud of that project. It took us around the country. The record went around the world. I get every once in a while, I'll get a DM from you know people that I've never met in my life. We're more than 5 degrees of separation. They're like, "Yo, I grew up on that record. This record did this for me.
Mm.
Thank you." And just pulling out certain lyrics, and I almost feel awkward, like I didn't, yeah, thank you, brother, but or sister, like, so nah, man, thank you. Like IUE was that was our calling card for many years.
Yeah, a great album though. You know, and if you're digging in the crates, I think it's a necessity. You know what I mean? You know, it never stops being relevant. Never stops being useful. You know, a record, and definitely not never stops being enjoyable. It's a great record. You know,
Thank
and
you,
then
man.
you
Thank you,
know,
brother.
as you go chronologically, I mentioned that then you guys had the Hustler and the Hunted series.
Hmm.
I think my personal favorite, I remember writing about this, was the Hustler and the Hunted Part Three. I felt like
Okay.
that one really was powerful to me. That one stuck out to me. I even wrote about that. I remember writing about that.
Hmm.
But I wanna fast forward a little bit. You know what I mean? Because those are
Okay.
crates too, man. Those are crates too. You know, and if you got them though, you know what I mean. Show off. You know, let me know. But
Respect. Respect.
if I remember a very important thing because it's something that I was looking and I couldn't find it anywhere to watch again. I wanted to watch it again, but and I remember when you had the premiere and I was there on the panel with a lobby and you were there, obviously,
Yes.
for the Ballad of the Bullet documentary. You know,
Hmm.
really a great documentary about you guys, your work, your insights, and tell me about the retrospect and thinking about that documentary and stuff. And is there any way like you guys will ever put that out somewhere so that way people could buy it or stream it somewhere?
Another very good question to this. Um, like I'm in a, I'm a, I was about to brag. I was gonna say I'm an amazing artist, but nah, I really put a lot of energy into this art, and I figure ways to get it out throughout all these years,
Mm-hmm.
doing it. There are times where I'm like, we could have had, we could have had this project to more people if we could have just worked it out. But I'm not gonna put it all on, us or myself. But the thing with Ballad of the Bullet, we put so much time and energy into that documentary film, and it was such a powerful piece of visual art,
Mm-hmm.
visual, a moving visual art that I wanted to have it out for, a bunch for everyone to be able to see it. But when we first did it, so just to give a quick background, it came out in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
It was um, it was filmed in the summer of 2008 during the lead up to the presidential election when Obama first became president.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Bajitsky, this filmmaker who was friends of friends, was around. Um, and I remember he came to my loft. I had a loft in Clinton Hill on Lexington and Clinton Classic. And he came through. He was like, "Yo, I love Air Likes music. I love what y'all do." And I took it like, just props. Like, oh, okay, thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. He was like, no, no, you're not listening. Like, not only do I like your music, I think it lends itself to story well, and I would like to do like some film project around y'all music or ideas y'all got, or like let's think of something. Let's think of maybe a short film, something. And I was like, all right, let's figure it out. Like, what can we do? Just we spitball some ideas, brainstorm for a little bit, and then I kind of was just like, look, why don't you just hang around while we record and we'll figure it out. So he's around while we're recording at the crib. Kay will come over, we would be recording, and he threw a couple ideas out that were based on different songs that we had. And then he was like, you know what? I got it. I know what we're gonna do. Oh no. Before I say that, while we record, there's an important part. While we record, me and Kay specifically, RBG, People Army, and even other people around us. Like, we always building. You know what I mean? We ain't just in there rapping like, yeah, just spit a hot verse, let's smoke some weed or whatever. Like, we building about current topics and what's going on in the world and all that. And obviously, a black man about to become or getting serious consideration to be the president of the United States of America with 3Ks, we were like, yo, we were talking about it. Everybody that was coming through the crib would talk about it.
Right.
I remember most came through the crib, Yassine Bey, and we were building about it. You know what I mean? Supreme will come through, we building about it. Victorious will stop through, we building about it. Stick, you know what I mean, will come through, we building about it. And he was like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna basically, we're not doing a short film, we're gonna do a documentary. We're gonna have some of y'all videos and music in it, but really it's gonna be centered around this conversation about this black president and the importance, the importance of this time in history, and what does this black president mean for the black community? You know what I mean? What is this? Does this black president mean freedom? Have we reached the mountaintop that Martin Luther King was talking about? Like, is this more of the same? Is this the okie doke? Is this the man, the system, the powers that be, Illuminati, throwing something to us real quick that'll keep us at bay, or is this the Antichrist? Whatever, right? There were so many different things people were talking about. So I think we broke it down to an elevated pitch of how are oppressed people going to get free? The ballot or the bullet? And the ballot is the political process, I guess assimilation, integration, being part of this, or the bullet, which represents armed rebellion. You know what I mean? Struggle. And we used the title from Malcolm X's speech because Malcolm X's speech was very relevant for that time and what was going on. And then, we just ran from there. And being that, we're very tied into the revolutionary art community, quote unquote conscious rappers or all that, like, it wasn't too hard to be like, yo, we got this filmmaker, we got this amazing camera, I got a space, and we'll pull up on you, and we're just going to ask you simple one question. How are oppressed people going to get free, the ballot or the bullet? And then you can expound from there. And everybody came out, was like, yo, I definitely got to be on that. Mortal Technique hopped on the joint. NY Oil, Stick, M1, Ray 6, my girlfriend at the time, Ilyasa Shabazz, who Supreme somehow linked it up. Like, Supreme always had his manager skills of like, we can get Ilyasa on it. I was like, you gonna get Malcolm X's daughter? He's like, yeah, we're gonna get Malcolm X's daughter. I was like, wow, let's do it. We went up to Harlem to, not the Autobahn, sorry, not that place, another place. I forgot another space in Harlem. And then we went out to Long Island, talked to Chuck D from Public Enemy. We went around and just had these conversations about that critical time when, people just had a certain energy. And did the film, took a little while to edit and all that, and decided to screen it at the Anthology Theater. That's where I think, you and O.B. and a few other people that were in part of that time and energy. And we filmed it there, and the plan was to put it out in some form or fashion. But Netflix wasn't around. Streaming wasn't around in 2008 like that.
Right.
There was like early things of like, I remember Paul talking about like, well, we could get it on this website, and people could buy it to watch it, and they just we were just trying to work it out, and we ended up deciding, instead of having it accessible to everyone in some format like a Netflix before Netflix, we decided to tour it at colleges and connect it to our show. So it'd be like, you want to book us, you can book the film. We will do a film screening. We'll do a Q&A afterwards. We'll do a show the next day, or we'll figure it out type thing. So we screened it at a bunch of universities for a while, and community centers, and just very grassroots. Like, the film is there, we there. But the reason why I started off saying, I'm a great artist,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as like the administration side of things, sometimes things be over my head or our head, and we try to, we're linking it up with different people, and it's something that every time it comes up, I'm reminded. I'm like, yo, nobody can see this. It's in my hard drive. Like they could book us, but whatever. Recently, when Trump was about to get knocked out of office, Victorious, the God Victorious, one of my best friends, one of my brothers,
Indeed,
one of our
peace to
our
God.
comrades in this, peace to the God. He him doing his film thing, he was like, we should put out Ballad of Bullet again and frame it in this context. He said, I want to edit it a little bit, and that was the plan. And Paul, everybody spoke on it, but it didn't. It wasn't the right time, or the timing was off, or something happened. But we're gonna get it out in some form or fashion. I have a contact up at Netflix, also at Prime, Amazon Prime. I'm thinking about at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to wait another 4 years, but it definitely has a certain audience and interest during the presidential election time. So it's something that it's a time capsule, and it's only getting more and more precious, and more as we get away from 2008. It's giving us more and more perspective on where we at now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that what you said earlier about our music or our art in general being timely, or which where it's still relevant to this day. One thing I've realized is that oppression, capitalism, effect on the black community, all the atrocities that happen, all the injustices that happen, are always trending. like
Right.
you know what I mean? Like there's sometimes where it's trending less, and obviously since George Floyd's assassination, it seems as though like mainstream media and what regular folk are in tune with things that we've been building about forever. When I say we, I'm talking about us, all of us, yourself, myself, the gods, revolutionaries, community
Mm-hmm.
activists.
Right.
You know what I mean? We've been building about the same thing forever because the conditions haven't changed. You know what I mean? It's like you got the same argument with your wife over and over, and you're like, we still arguing about it? And she's like, yeah, because it ain't changed.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like a gift and a curse to listening back to the music and our music is that it's relevant, but it's a damn shame that it's still relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I definitely see that. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'd love to see that out there again. On Netflix or something like that on Prime, because it's a great piece of work. You know what I mean? And then we fly through the catalog, and there's so much stuff here. These are all records I wrote about. I remember writing about on this in PremierHipHop.com a few years ago. The Us Against Them, with
Yep.
short EP with great songs. What a concentrated piece of work. Had great songs on it. You know what I mean? Another one where you really shined. And I was always gonna ask you because probably it didn't come out there, but the Sirens in the Distance wasn't on there, but it was kind of
Mhm.
out at like circulating around the same time and stuff like that. So it's kind of, I don't know, kind of like your ALX's greatest like B side. You know what I mean? where it's not
Yeah.
really on an album and stuff. It's not on I don't remember it being on a mixtape, or was it? Or was a piece of it on the Hustler and the 103? I don't remember.
It, it was. It was. That was that track. You're right. A it's a classic. It's my greatest B side because we had most on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And just about nature of how things go. Most is a very popular artist, amazing artist, great person, and him being on the record, people are anybody that we were like working with at the time, like label wise, like yo, we got to put that record out. And the idea was that was part of Us Against Them. There was a lot going on during that time. Us Against Them was going to be a whole project, like a whole full album.
Right.
Ended
right.
up being an EP because different records got put, on different, mixtapes and things like that. And Sirens in the Distance was one of them. And I would say that Us Against Them is kind of considered like A-Light's final project.
Right.
I think that there's going to be another A-Light's project at some point. But if you ever see the art of various artists' art, career art,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking about not only like music artists, but even like visual artists, like let's say Basquiat.
Right.
There's an innocence and a certain level of discovery in their first projects, and then you see like a middle time, of them finding their full voice and kind of like being at the height of their power, and then the third act of that art tends to be like, ironically, and you can look through different artists and it almost you can see a death, but not in a bad way, but definitely a mortality in it or a recognizing of that mortality. And I think Us Against Them was our most serious work. A lot of as much as throughout our career, we were just trying to keep it as real as possible and all that. I think we reached this space where we really were like, we shed any pretense of trying to be hot rappers or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And K was, I remember the conversations that me and K had during that time. Like K really, really went in on just regular street culture isn't enough. You know what I mean? Like we're not that we glamorize street culture at all, but we're gonna put everything under a microscope, including ourselves, including our, the hood and the street and hustlers, and we're not gonna go easy. We're gonna really look in the mirror on this one. And I think Us Against Them, when I listen back on that record, my man DJ Metaphysic, one of the producers on that project, he passed away while we were working on Us Against Them. And he produced a lot of amazing records. Produced for Dead Prez, produced for Mortal Technique, produced for maybe Action Bronson, a few other people. I remember him listening to the record when we were working on it. He was like, "Yo, God, this is y'all best. This is y'all most realest. Like I love all y'all stuff, but this one right here." And I just remember that time. Like it was just an amazing, fun time working on it. But it was definitely like almost like we could see that phase of our careers like coming to a close. And I started getting interested in doing other music, bouncing on different soundscapes. I love boom bap. I love dirty drums. I love samples. I love 8-bar loops. You know what I mean? I love the hypnotic energy of what East Coast hip hop has taught me. But I was starting to get interested in different rhythms. You know what I mean? Different rhythms and different sounds and synths and electronic instruments. And it was like Bob Dylan going electric. I was like, damn, I want to go electric. I want to put this real shit on the on. You know what I mean? I want to. You know what I mean? And I think Us Against Them was like, let's wrap this one up. And then I think K specifically was like listening to some of the records I was working on. I think he was looking at me not sideways like the shade, but definitely sideways like oh word, you about to rap on this electro stuff right here? You gonna do this? I was like, yeah, bro. I think I can put that real rap on this and do it in a way that I haven't heard.
Right. You know what's funny, right? I don't think I ever told you this, right? And it's great to say it on air, because covering artists so long and being a journalist, and then what happens is I end up covering artists that other people don't really cover at all or properly,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
I would always cover you guys' work, you know what I mean? In as much detail as I could. And I remember,
Right.
I don't remember which parliament it was, right? And I saw you, right? And you were dressed very eclectically, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you were dressed very
Yes.
eclectically, right? And
Uh-huh.
same Ness, same peace vibe, everything, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
and I was okay with that. And it was a time where like people looking at everybody like where we're common electric circus type stuff and things like that, and like, oh
Right.
shit, he's dressing fucked up or
Right.
crazy,
Right.
he's gonna make
Mm-hmm.
some bad music or some experimental shit he's got no business doing. And
Right.
I would get the thing like, yo, what's up with this? Like, I'm supposed to talk to you and tell you something. And nah, like, we gotta go see what he does, because it's funny because most people are get see like the like, for example, right? And we have retrospect to do it now, and I'm really saying this for the listener, not for you, Ness, because you mastered this, and
All
that's my
respect.
point.
All respect.
But when we look at a person like Common, we see a catalog that has a lot of like pitfalls or experiments that might not fail or anything like that. But you also see music that you never got to hear ever, because he
Right.
tried so many different things. So
Right.
I always likened it to who's my, really how I got into jazz was Miles Davis. And I'm a jazz
Mm.
man, like the
Mm.
modal jazz and the 1950s soul jazz, blue note. That's my favorite era, but I love all the Miles Davis eras. You know what I mean? And when he went
Mm-hmm.
when he went funk, on the corner, all these albums, I love all of them. You know what I mean? I love
Mm-hmm.
all of them, and I collect
Mm-hmm.
everything Miles Davis. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I would tell people they wouldn't really get it though, and I was like, yeah, he's just he's in another Miles, and they don't understand what I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
though. And
Mm-hmm.
it leads up to Weekend Mercury, the Weekend Money,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the Freddie Mercury project,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and you saw what I wrote about it. I thought it was a success because
Thank you.
I call this era that started really in the 2010s, and I've written obviously my book of calling it that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've called this era the Invisible Renaissance because there's so much great work, but it's under the
Mm-hmm.
veil of commercialism. You don't know all this is even there. And
It's in your book. This is in your book.
indeed, indeed, and
I
I would,
gotta get it. What's it?
and
Yeah. What part of stuff? Not. I don't mean to cut your wisdom,
oh yeah,
but I know
yeah.
I might forget.
This from the Filtered Real Essays from the Invisible Renaissance. You know what I mean? And when I
Okay.
talked about the whole era, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the interesting things that I always had a problem with, and I was worried that it might not be an era, is that a lot of the dope MCs, great artists, they were relying a lot on old breaks, and I was like, I heard all that. I don't want to hear Hihachi again. You know what I mean? And shit
Right.
like that. So when
Right.
I heard your project, I was like, wow, finally this could breathe some fresh air, like different styles of making music. You know what I mean? Because that's what the
Mm-hmm.
music needs. It gets tiring. You know what I mean? It gets
Mm-hmm.
very
Yep.
tiring, and if there's an MC that's skilled enough to pull it off, we could hear something that we never heard before. Because I don't know why people don't have that vibe anymore. That's the vibe we came up with. Like, I want to hear the next shit, something I never heard before.
Exactly.
And
Exactly, brother.
and that's exactly what I got. You know what I mean? When I heard the Freddie Mercury album, you know what I mean? And Weekend Money. But my first question to you is probably a question that people wouldn't really dare to ask you, Ness.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
not just the music, because I don't associate the music with that. It's funky, it's electric, but I don't associate any music with a gentrifier, because that's a gentrifier, and the gentrifiers that have come into our neighborhoods over the years and throughout
Mm-hmm.
history in the urban areas, they haven't brought culture in. You know what I mean?
Mm.
They have basically
Mm.
latched onto a particular era of a culture that they've liked, that they come into and exploited it
Mm-hmm.
as their own. So that's why all of a sudden Bed-Stuy loves Biggie. You know what I mean? And it's like a new thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, we love Biggie now. Like, since when did Bed-Stuy not love Biggie? You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, You know what I'm saying? And my question to you is like, the only thing I always wanted to ask you personally, and also as a question on air, well, was like, you do this project, Freddie Mercury, and if you see the visuals that you had going on and stuff, it's like,
Mm.
yo, these are the future gentrifiers. How dare we make music with these people? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
These
right.
hipsters, you know what I mean? And it was like, it was so, on your part, it was so fucking daring. It was so like, I don't give a fuck who I'm doing shit with. It's gonna be dope. It doesn't matter where I go. I just like the whole ballsy aspect of the whole shit, man. So I just wanted your
Right.
mentality on all that because it looked like that to some people, but when I would hear their responses about the music, they didn't really have that musical palette to
Right.
understand what you were doing. You know what I mean? It was like serving different meals. Like, yo, we just went to Ethiopia and you don't know nothing but burgers and fries. So you
Right.
can't really get into this shit. You know what I mean? Or appreciate it, you
You
know?
know
But
what?
what was that thing? Because the hipster imagery, we're in the middle of getting gentrified, and then here you are rolling with like everybody that looks like a hipster, you know?
Yo, brother, this like let me tell you, this is what I'm talking about. About I don't know if you saw the post that I put on Instagram. Uh I was like telling everybody, yo, tune in. I'm doing this interview building with one of the I forget what I said, but I meant it. This wasn't just me saying some words. Like one of
Mm-hmm.
the most knowledgeable, uh, thoughtful, might have said critical thinkers, writers, um, in the game. Period. Like the fact that you're gonna like the that question, you know what I mean, the way you framed it,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously, and I would say, and the courage would be like, yo, I'm gonna be real, like this was an energy that could have been, could have been looked at like, yo, what the hell are you doing? And
Mm-hmm.
to keep it 1,000, like I would say, coming up, younger Ness, A likes Ness, like deep A likes Ness. Not like the last few years when I was like starting to like listening to different things. But we looked at Weekend Money Ness like, what the hell are you doing, bro? Like, what is that? Like, all right, what, like, you know what I mean? Like the music itself, I think would have been definitely like, all right, I get what you're trying to do, but like, I didn't even like synth. Like, I didn't like the sound, the texture of synth, like electronic synth.
Mm.
I didn't like
Mm.
certain drums that didn't have an analog like film on it. You know, like I literally would like hear that. I would hear certain records beats, way before I started doing Weekend Money, and like I could almost tell them like, nah, man, them drums is too like sound like a video game or something that I didn't like. Like I like dirt.
Right,
I
right.
like that. You know what I mean? I like that. You know what I mean? I really like. I like it not like a safari. Like, oh, I'm into lo-fi hip hop. Nah, I tell you all the breaks and different drum sounds and where they came from. So I say that to say, it it was just natural. Let's being an artist in a real sense. Hip hop and black culture, but definitely hip hop. The artists that create this, um, we almost get like they look at us like we're disposable. And when I say they, I'm talking about the industry,
Mm-hmm.
fans. It's just like, yo, here, yo, do what you do, bro, and get out of here. Like, like if you do this and I come to you for this, that's what I want from you. If you Mob Deep and I'm coming to listen to Mob Deep, I don't want to hear Prodigy want to sing now or rapping on some like jazz rhythm or like
Right,
bebop
right.
like nah. You're a product. When I come to the store to pick up my ketchup, it needs to be ketchup. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be a different type of ketchup, whatever. So
Right,
my
right.
point is, you know what I mean? So my point is, I was I was evolving as a person and as an artist, and I was evolving like my circle, the people who I was coming into contact was changing, and I wasn't looking at with the Weekend Money project. I wasn't looking at it like, oh, a chance to do something to make me hot, or a chance
Mm.
to do something that'll get on the radio. Like all those things are always in the background. I mean, we trying to eat. We're not trying to be out in the street hustling forever or at some 9 to 5 job that we don't want. We would love for our music to feed us, maybe buy our mothers
Right.
a house or do all these things. So it's always in the background, but in the forefront throughout my entire career, it was about, the thing at hand, the art, the what are we saying? Are my contemporary artist friends, people that I know, are they gonna be impressed? Are they gonna be like, yo, Ness, that was fire? So with Weekend Money, right after Airlight's last project, actually during the last project of Airlight, Us Against Them, I had a project called I-2025. A
Mm.
lot of people, know about it. A lot of people don't know about it. And I-2025 was a project that was trying to encompass this evolution that I was going through, like my musical evolution, like things I was listening to. Like I was listening to new stuff at the time, certain things from like French electro, listening to stuff from Japan, listening to German electro, listening to stuff like Boys Noise, Justice, listening to random stuff like Empire of the Sun, like things of that time that you might see at like an electronic festival. But then, as a studier of this thing, and knowing that it all starts with us, and it's, what I mean, we're the originators of everything, I was like connecting it back all the way to Africa Bambaataa and Kraftwerk when he was sampling Kraftwerk, and then I'm like listening to Kraftwerk, and then I'm like seeing the connections between all this, and I'm like, I got an inner courage because I also am a critic. I'm also a person that will like listen to things, like watch cats make moves. Like when Common did the Electric Circus, I was side eyeing him, and like we know Common through through the fam. Like
Mm-hmm.
Common went to FAMU,
Right.
Florida A&M. I went to Florida A&M, so we knew. When I say I'm looking at him sideways, I wasn't like, what the hell are you doing? But the same thing. You're like, what is this? So I got the courage to move forward because I was doing my research and I was studying it. And my rebuttal for anybody that wasn't trying to be polite and would actually say, straight up, like, yo, Ness, what is this shit, bro? Like I don't like, what are you doing? What happened to Air Lights? Are you like you rapping on this type of stuff? And I was like, bro, it's all us. We created this. They you know what I mean? Like if electro and electronic music and all that, like the rhythms are African rhythms still, you know what I mean? And I think to put it in a nutshell, the music, the evolution of my taste and like, you know, other people that I was around made me say, I want to, I don't want to like jump on this and turn it into a party. I want to jump on this and create a world with it. But
Mm.
I wasn't identifying with the sound. So I created this project, I-2025. It was basically a film script that I was working on with Paul Bajitsky, who did Ballad of the Bullet. I was talking to him and just talking to different people about this like futuristic, not too futuristic, not too in the futuristic movie that dealt with basically class war, class struggle in the near future. Um, it was 2010, and I put it out to the year 2025 when guerrilla warfare has broken out. I'll go through it another time because
Mm.
I'll be here for 30 minutes talking about the script. I still have like parts of it, but I mean, it was a lot. Like paper money had been abolished. Everybody was on electronic payments, which this is before Venmo, Cash App, and all that. So it was like uh, to pay for services or products, you had to pay with the chip that was in your pinky. It was inserted in your pinky, and you swiped it. And I created this whole world where, well, when paper money gets taken away, how people like, and everything's on a chip. How's the black market gonna run? How's the street gonna run? Like how cats gonna be, on the lower rungs of society still moving? So I created, you're writing the script. So I'm like, cats is chopping off pinkies, and like that's kind of like a sign, like the the underworld boss got mad pinkies on his chain. It's a whole thing I created, and I was like, I remember telling Paul like, this is the basic idea. I want to film something. I don't know how we can even get a budget for it, but I'm gonna start on the soundscape for it. I'm gonna start on the score, the soundtrack for it, and I did I-2025.
Mm.
And it was the first time I did music that wasn't my like personal story. It wasn't me and Kay talking about hustling, being oppressed, going through it, figuring out life. It wasn't about me. It was like, it was actually like my most creative period in the sense that I got out of my routine and I was forced out of my comfort zone. I forced myself out of my comfort zone that I had been writing in for 9, 10 years. And that project really opened me up. Like I produced a lot of it by sampling electronic stuff. I was like looking for different producers that could make this sound, but do it a certain way. And a lot of the producers that I was working with, when they would hear like the things that I was producing or whatever, they were like, "This is amazing, brother! Like, what is this? Where'd you get this from? Like, I don't even know the sample." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's because y'all don't even listen to this type stuff because you know what I mean. I got a 4,000 square foot loft in Clinton Hill, and like some of the people that pull up is what we would consider weirdos or eclectic or
Right.
and that's on the black side, man, and also some hipsters. You know what I mean? Like, and just different people that were around. I remember Tully from Ninja Sonic would pull up, and I remember seeing the Phony People cats, Theophilus London, and it was just people that was around that was not on that East Coast original boom bap hip hop, and like I wasn't marginalizing them. I wasn't marginalizing the sound. I wasn't. I was just like, yo, this is another thing. Let's take it in. Let's work, and let's do this project. And I was just zoning out. Like I was just literally like a lot of time to myself and just really zoning out. And I ended up running into the producer of Weekend Money, my partner in Weekend Money, Baghdaddy. You know what I mean? Because one of my main producers, Parker, was like, I love what you're doing. I can't make this stuff, but I got this kid that I work with. They were working at an app company in Dumbo called Freeverse. And he was like, he makes all the music for the video games and stuff. And I think it might be something up his alley. And he had a studio in Dumbo. I pulled up to the studio. I told him what I was trying to do. He was like, all right, let's try to work on some stuff. We tried a few beats, and he just wasn't coming with it. He just wasn't coming with it. In my head, I-2025 was like 4 on the floor, like electro, certain BPM. And I was like harkening back to when I was a kid watching Robotech and Japanese animation and
right.
Voltron and Transor Z. And like, I was like, I want it to be like this. And he kind of wasn't making what I want. So I was like, yo, just play me some beats. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like the first session. It took us like 3 sessions to figure out. It wasn't that. And then when I heard what he was working on, and this links it back up to what you were saying about hipsters, he's working on some like trap rhythm stuff, like hi-hats, doing all that. And I was looking for more. I was thinking Planet Rock, you know what I mean, mixed with like, you know what I mean, something else. And he was kind of on some hipster shit. He was on his like, nah, I want to work on this like trap stuff. And I was like, I listened to one of the beats and I was like, it's actually fire. And I don't got nothing against it. So I'm gonna go back and put my story on this. And this ain't I-2025 no more. This is Ness from A-Lights. Ness, my actual real life stories from my actual life on these crazy beats. So we just started working. The first song we had was Insomniac, which was it was like as soon as we made it, everybody was in the studio that was around was like, yo, this is a hit. Y'all should do a whole project together. And I think Bag came to me was like, yo, man, this is like the first thing that like everyone is really going crazy about that I made. He was young in the game. He was like in his early 20s. And he ain't never released music. So he was just like, let's come up with a name for the project. And in my head, I was just doing a one-off. And I was calling the one-off Weekend Money. Not as in me and him were Weekend Money. The name of the album, the project, is Weekend Money. And then he was like, that's an awesome name. That's an awesome name. So we're Weekend Money. And I looked at him, I was like, what you mean we're Weekend Money? He was like, Weekend Money. I said, come up with a name for the thing. And he was like, as soon as he said it, I was like, I wouldn't have thought of that as a name for a group, but that's an amazing name for a group.
Right,
So
right.
I was like, let's work. So we started just, he has like the studio brick house in Dumbo. I love for everybody to like be able to like see it. It's like there was so many different random sound things. He had Fisher Price keyboards. He had multiple organs like analog synth organs and little drums. And he's an Arab brother. His family
Mm-hmm.
was from Iraq. They
Mm-hmm.
migrated during the first Desert Storm. So he had like little like Arab instruments and like just mad stuff. And to be real, like I wasn't thinking at all like, damn, I want to work on this, but I don't want cats thinking I'm funny. I wasn't even think. I was just like, yes. Now this is like 2-3 years in this evolution where I'm like really coming out of my comfort zone and what people know me as, and I was just zoning. I was like, I want to do music. He can play. He can actually play. Like I'll hum something and he'll play it out, and it was just a continuation of what I would call like when I say creative. What we did with Airlikes was very creative on on certain levels, but we were basically taking motifs or like formats that were given to us from the Nazis, the Mob, the Wu Tang, and putting our own spin on it. But the stuff I was working on I-2025 and going into Weekend Money, like I had never heard nothing like that. Like real
Mm-hmm.
hard MC talking about real stuff. I got a deep, what I mean, like I don't say deep voice, but like I'm not out here playing around on the record. Like I'm coming with something, but the sonics and the rhythms are like all over the place, and not all over the place in a bad way, but just like we had we put a phrase up in the studio called Freedom of Sound. Like we just wrote it on a piece of paper, and Freedom of Sound was like our calling card of like no pretenses. Whatever we feeling, we're gonna just come with it. Like it could be the Fisher Price keyboard going clink clink clink, and he'll sample it like clink 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 clink, and then we'll be playing some YouTube video of like some music from his peoples, and he's like, you see how the rhythm is going on this? Can you rap on that? And I'm like, yeah, I can rap on it. And he's like, you can rap on anything. I'm like, I know how to put words together. Like I'm not copying Nas or copying the hottest rapper at the time or copying Raekwon. Like I've broken this thing down to the basic elements of rhyme schemes and alliteration and words. So
Mm-hmm.
I can put it on 4/4 time. I could put it on waltz rhythms. We could do anything we want. And he looked at me like an instrument. I looked at him like an instrument, and I took care of the content because I just had a certain worldview, and just that was super important to me. He would throw some ideas like, "Why don't we do a song about Palestine?" Because his mother's Palestinian. And I'm like, "You right up my alley. I'll do it." Or he's going through something with his girlfriend, and I'm like, "Let me write a story like I'm you." We had a song on the album called I forget the name of it now. I was about to say I need somebody to talk to, but it was a song that I wrote, and a lot of people think it's about me talking to my girlfriend. It's really me being him talking to his girl. So I was just zoning, and like I wasn't thinking about the outside noise or how it looked. Like I was genuinely having a certain, moment to like give myself that freedom to explore different things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, um, we're not devoid of politics. We're not devoid like in this art. It's not like art is in a vacuum, and it's like you can just all the other things surrounding really don't matter. You're just doing your art and you love it. Like I recognize, a year or so in of what the brand or the world of Weekend Money consisted of. We used to have talks about like what are we actually presenting here as us as people. You know what I mean? And he's an Arab brother, but some people would thought he was white, and he lived in Williamsburg, like in the middle of hipster nation. Like he lived on North Sixth in Barry.
Right,
Like
right.
I used to pull up to his loft and be like, and I would meet all these different people that I'm not like. I'm like, y'all really appreciate this black culture, and I was a little ignorant to hipsters because I just didn't know. Like I was always around my homies, and You know what I mean? RBG, People Army, Brooklyn, like real Brooklyn, like Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, and you know what I mean? Like I didn't really, I wasn't in Williamsburg like that before then. So I remember initially, I, I remember in my head, I was thinking like, yo, these cats really appreciate the hell out of black culture and they don't know shit about it. And I feel like I'm kind of like a shaman in this shit. Like I remember I would have conversations. It'd be Bagging Man, a few other. Like I'll bring some of the homies from the hood or some of my peoples, and it'll be a ill mix of like some hipsters from his side and some cats from my side. And I'm like telling stories about Wu Tang or about random hip hop things or how this rhythm reminds me of this and oh I ain't never heard this, and they would just be sitting there like wow, Ness, you know so much about this, and I'm like, all right, and I found a responsibility to like maintain my center and maintain a true voice within the noise of gentrification of hipster um, exploitation, if you will. You know what I mean? And I remember a few years in, especially after our first project, Freddie Mercury was actually the second album that we did with Weekend Money. The first one was Naked City, and one of our most popular songs from that record was a song called Yellow. It was, if you never heard nothing from Air Lights and you heard that from me, you would have never thought I did anything like Air Lights. It was um I remember Drake's The Motto was out at the time, and in my head it had this rhythm like a soul clap, like a tap 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 tap, and it actually doesn't have a soul clap, but the rhythm was like that. And I remember coming into the studio being like, "Yo, Bag, I want something that goes clap 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 clap," and then he was like, "All right," and he literally did a clap. Not the time, he just did a clap, and I'm like, I was freestyling. I was like, late night, bright light in the city, in the back of a yellow with two pretty little bitties. And I was just rapping something about going out on a Friday in the city as a, whatever. I ain't getting into specifics, but moving through the city on a Friday night and what that entails. And that became like our most popular song at shows. People were really like, oh my God, play Yellow. And people were dancing. And it was fun. Like I didn't really have records that people could dance to before like that. So it was like, all right, this is dope. But I think I felt the first um, pangs of like I created something and now people want me to do nothing but just that. And we weren't a label when we were on an indie label. We was on Das Racist, the artist Das Racist Teams and Kool AD's their label. But they weren't giving us pressure to like make that over and over. But I think people started seeing Weekend Money as almost like party energy. And I think like a few times I'll be like, are y'all actually listening to what I'm saying though? Like y'all know what's going on? And this is not everybody. I don't want to just demonize everybody that will be considered hipster to be like, it was just a bunch of bullshit motherfuckers that like, I remember just being like, it might get lost in the 808s and the BPMs up and I think between that album going into Freddie Mercury, I remember telling Bag I want to dig in a little more and not slow it down and not have records that have a certain tempo, but really just go in a certain way, because that first project was like just getting stuff off and trying things out, and it ended up coming out. And then the second one, I had more time to see. All right, I'm down with this widened soundscape palette. I'm down with these rhythms being different, but I want to talk about things I'm going through with my baby mom. I mean, my daughter's mother, pardon, or things I'm going through. You know what I mean? Just things that aren't fun to listen to on some entertainment level. Like it's painful. There's some pain in it. I wanted to put the pain in it. So we started doing that, and then after Freddie Mercury, I wanted to go even further. And I'm like, all right, we talking about drugs and street stuff. I want to talk about where these drugs come from, and I want to talk about the drug diaspora. We actually never came out with that project, but the point is, I think the imagery, trying to find a happy medium between Bag's aesthetic sensibilities and mine. Like we would have arguments, nothing crazy. He's a super cool brother, very nice. but he's very opinionated and has a strong like idea of how he wants to look and the videos, and we would go
Mm-hmm.
back and forth. And part of my stance would be, I ain't gonna be looking crazy out here, bro. And I'm flexible. I'm down to do stuff. But I remember the first album, Naked City. Coming off of the what people call New York, like 6 million stories in Naked City, whatever. I remember he's like, "What are we gonna do for the cover?" And he came. He was like, "Why don't we like stand in the middle of Dumbo, like one of them famous like streets in Dumbo, and just like we're like naked, but we're like covering ourselves?" And I was like, "Nah, we not doing that." He's like, "Yo, but it'll be so crazy. Everybody would be like, what the hell?" And I was like, "I don't. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not there with it." And I'm not saying like nudity's bad or whatever, but it's things like that and just other things where it's just like I'm 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 a flex. I'm gonna try different things, but I do have a certain integrity to what I feel comfortable with and what I'm proud to represent. And Weekend Money is that. Like
Mm.
there's like
Right, right.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
definitely, a successful experiment to me. You know what I mean? And I guess it
mhm,
all leads to this album now. An album that to me I thought was incredible off first listen. The more I learned about it, even more incredible. The album out now. You go to Ness and Baby J. That's N with the Ness X Baby J .bandcamp.com, and all the merch is there. The
yes
album is
sir.
there. 21st Century Blues. I don't know what to say about this album. You know what I mean? That would I think about. I always think about music years from now. Like, what would I tell people to get years from now? What would be necessary? And in 2020, I would think this would be one of those records. You know what I mean? That people would
Thank
have
you,
to go back for and say, "Oh, we need to get that in the collection." Sounds incredible, and
thank you.
I think the work with you and Baby J, um, that was my introduction to your work too. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
I overtly realized that that was you later with ALX, but the songs you did with Baby J on the album, it was with his big baby logo on it. You know what I mean?
Mm, yes.
And the songs you had, the two songs you had, yeah, that's right, the two songs you had. I'm forgetting the
Walk with a
name.
bop,
Right, Walk with a
walk with a
Bop.
bop, and Army, People Army, something like that. P.O.P.L.E. Walk with a Bop was the one that circulated a lot because it was the single from that record, which is it's called the
Indeed.
Birth record, the Birth album, the Birth
Right,
album.
right. The Birth album. That's right. Former Army and Walk with a Bop. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
That was a great album. You know what I mean? That had a lot of great stuff on it. You know what I mean? Um,
Poetic, rest in peace, Poetic.
Indeed.
Um, Shabazz Disciple was on it.
Yeah, Shabazz
Bunch
had
of
some bangers on there too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was a great album. And I saw some things about you working the way you worked with Baby J. Um, I'm really blown away because a lot of this wasn't sampled. This record was made from scratch, you know what I mean? And basically by
yeah.
the melodies, but the way that he made it sound so dirty, um, and gave it so much rhythm and stuff, it's impeccable, impeccable production, throughout
Yes,
the album.
yes, yes.
And also, to take the idea of blues, I just want to read something here. It made me think about your album. There's a
Right.
blues scholar. His name is Paul Oliver, and he wrote something about blues in his book. In a book he wrote about blues, he said blues is all these things and all these people, the creation of renowned, widely recorded artists, and the inspiration of a man known only to his community, perhaps only to himself. So the story of the blues is the story of humble, obscure, unassuming men and women, and it is the story of some whose names become household words, in black households, that is. Of many of them,
Mhm.
nothing remains as evidence of their skill except for the few brief moments of a phonograph record. And I was like, wow, that's if you want to know
Wow.
why this is called 21st Century Blues, because I kept thinking, like, so many of these songs here, the way Ness, the way that you're telling stories of individuals, the way you give the entire reality that we're in as a macrocosm, and then go into the micro realities of individual stories throughout, like what is it? So many songs in here, like Teenage Kids, Ballad of a
Mm-hmm.
Broken Man.
Mm-hmm.
The way you go through your life, like, growing up in the 80s, 90s, that era that we grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
and put it and give it in the context of today. I kept thinking of that snippet from that book that Paul Oliver wrote about blues, because I was like, yo, this is really, really the blues, and it's an impeccable work, and
Thank you, man.
as a technical work, as far as like your technical skills, the gifts. There's so many devices on this album, man.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about, there's such a methodology to what you're trying to do when you make records. You know what I mean? Did you just go like, yeah, it's time to work with Baby J again and make something next level? Like, is it that simple?
You know, soon as like first and foremost, I told myself, or not like I thought about it too deep, but before we started this interview, I was like, don't get long winded because I will build about the nooks and crannies of this whole thing, and we'll be here for hours. And the reason why I want to keep it concise and just keep it moving because people tend to like not listen. You know what I mean? And
Oh, indeed,
that's a
indeed.
theme. That's a theme here. And if things are made into little sound bites and it's quick and there's some humor in it, and I say something crazy, then it's like, all right, that's cool, but keep it moving. And what ends up happening is that goes just out the window when we start building like amongst each other because you're a real one. And like what you just read encompasses what I've been saying to people why I named the 21st Century Blues better than anything
Mm-hmm.
that I've said. Like, so the question you asked was, is it as simple as, all right, time to work on a project with Baby J and let's just get it in? I don't know how to just write just to write. You know what I mean? Like I always say, I don't never have writer's block because I can always write, but there's times where I'm just not as inspired to write, and I need to live a little more, or I need to reflect a little more. Better yet, and with Baby J's project, with this 21st Century Blues, I Weekend Money's rhythm, soundscape, and the things that are attached to the brand, to what we do with Weekend Money. Like I definitely strive to put in the real stories, the pain, and certain things. But there's something that a hypnotic 8 bar loop, and when I say loop, meaning something that is not going to have mad different chord progressions and different changes and bridges
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that we would do Weekend Money, which is all it was a lot. I mean, I was surfing on them rhythms doing a lot, but sometimes in technically trying to bounce on them records, you can't get as intimate. I mean, like you can, but you know what I mean. We were a group. Weekend Money was a producer and an artist doing a dance, and I would honor that. So I miss being able to do certain flows and rhythms on boom back. You know what I mean? 88 beats per minute, 90 beats per minute, 83 beats per minute. Like, you know what I mean? That East Coast bounce. I missed that. So
Mm-hmm.
I had I had a bunch of energy of just wanting to just jump on that sound, and a bunch of like ideas and stories and some raps, like some of the like maybe some bars from that album were already written. A lot of it wasn't, but I when he was like early in quarantine, maybe like 3 weeks into everything being shut down worldwide. We would talk every once in a while. He was like, I'm like, yo, what does it look like in the UK right now? I remember the energy in March of 2020. It was weird. It was like, I
Mm-hmm.
like sci-fi as a kid growing up. I like dystopian movies and end of the world movies and all that because, when you're oppressed, you almost look at the end of the world like, yes, a chance to start over. So I've always been into that space. So the beginning of quarantine or the pandemic or whatever you call it was a weird time, and I thought that it kind of leveled the people's attention span, the playing field. Like, yeah, y'all can't go out to the club, ain't no partying,
Mm.
ain't you know what I mean? All them distractions are done. So we about to go. You know what I mean? Like we're faced with ourselves. We're faced with the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror. We're faced with having to really um, deal with life and death and what's really important and all that. So when Jay was like, "Oh man, we've been trying to work on a project for years after ALX. Like I have been to the UK 3 times on tour, and every time I go to the UK, I pull, hit my man Jay up. Yo, Jay, what's up? I'm here. I'm on tour with Weekend Money, or I'm on tour, or whatever. And we'll get up, we'll work on some things. And I was too busy with Weekend Money stuff, but I've been wanting to do it. So when he came and said, "Yo, 3 weeks in the quarantine, let's work on that project we've been talking about, working on," I was like, "Let's do it." And as soon as I started writing, it was it was just like bleeding out. Like everything was just coming. It was just like I didn't have a plan for the whole album. I didn't have a title for the album.
Mm.
I was like, I just want to write. And I told him, I was like, I want you to make whatever beats you want to make. I'm not going to direct you and be like, make this, make that. And I'm just going to write. And the thing about writing on those kind of beats, it's more journal entry. It's more of a journal entry.
Mm.
It's more poetry in it. It's more small things. The flows, I could switch the rhyme word in a way that whatever, like I could write that. It's just second nature. I've been writing, those tempos, those drum patterns since the start of my career. The stuff I did with Weekend Money and I 2025 was more of a challenge, and rhyming double time and triple time and
Mm.
all these different flows was more about the technical aspect of how I'm going to bounce on these records. Where I'm, Jay's stuff and Alchemist is music, and Derringer, or Fourth Disciple, RZA,
Mm.
Just Blaze, some of Just Blaze stuff, some of Kanye stuff. Like, you just turn it on, man. And I'm talking about a story that I wasn't even thinking about. Something about me being a kid in North Philly with my pop doing drugs, and he bringing a prostitute to the door, and I don't know who that is, and he lying about this, and it's gonna make me talk about things I'm not even thinking about in the front of my mind, but it just draws it up because the kata, the rap kata that I'm doing, I did that kata so many times, I'm not even thinking about the kata, so I can just really zone in on the thing, you know what I mean? So one thing that was super important with me with that project was to write from my age, my space in life, and not a lot of hip hop is what do you call it? There's a word for it, but not dumbed down, but like it's for the youth. You know what I mean? It's not above 30. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm.
for teens and 20 somethings and everybody that wants to cater to that. And I definitely thought with ALX music was always a certain energy where older cats can get into it, but I was younger. During the whole time with I-2025 and the Weekend Money, I was of a certain space, and I think that some of that was lost. Of like, yeah, I'm a grown man. I got a child that when I first started Weekend Money, she wasn't a teen, but towards the end of she's a teenager now. And like, what is that story of a street brother, street dude, and he got a daughter that's a teenager? Like, I don't ever hear those records. I don't hear those stories. And, you know what I mean? I don't hear, cat questioning, just certain things. I was like, that gotta be in the album. Like, I'm gonna figure a way to not make it cool, but to not make it sound like, hey, this is OG rapping to you as an OG about OG stuff, and you kids need to listen because I'm the OG. It's like, nah, this is like OG to the mirror. You know what I mean? Like intimate, like what a grown man is really dealing with, and that was important to me. So that was there, and also Corona and this perceived crisis of what was going on, and that had to be in it. You know what I mean? Not Corona itself, but the first song I wrote was a joint called Rona. And it was like, you know, right, this is the backdrop of where we live in, and let's talk about that. And then, and during the process of writing the project, writing these stories about talking about grown street niggas and teenage kids, and writing about the pandemic. Then George Floyd gets assassinated by the pig in Minneapolis. Um, and now that energy, I wasn't reacting to that energy, but as someone who's written about countless pieces about that, us being persecuted, being lynched out here, being having pressure from the police, the government, and all that. Like watching everybody's response to it really energized me to be like, I'm not trying to step in here and be like, all right, oh y'all about revolution, y'all about going against system. I got a song for you. It wasn't that. It was more like, let me add some perspective from my point of view as an artist, as a person, as a member of our community that wants to build about that. And it just evolved into the project, and like halfway into it, 3/4 into it, I started seeing that this might be my best project personally, as a writer, as a songwriter, as a thing. Like it was just,
Indeed.
I went into spaces that I never went into before, and I think that I say this a lot. I think it's my best work, my most intimate work. Me and Victorious, the God Victorious, we build a lot about hip hop and how rappers are scared to be intimate, truly intimate, and intimate in the sense of like transparent, really talking about their fears, their pain, their what they're going through. You know what I mean? They might talk about fake pain, or not fake pain. Pardon me. They might talk about pain that is palatable for the white gaze, like, yeah, my man got killed in the street. You know what I mean? I'm sad, or I went to jail, but I made it out, and now I'm rich. You know what I mean? Like, it's always some like curated for the white gaze, for the capitalist gaze, if you will, but true intimate, transparent, like just putting it out there, like go there. And that was in the back of my head while I was doing it. Like talk about that uncomfortable story about your pop, bro. Talk about, raising your seed, and how your mom, used, corporal punishment, like we grew up getting beat or whatever. Do you beat your kids? Like, I haven't beat my daughter because I don't know. I just, what I mean? It's in the song called Spare the Ride. I'm like talking about, it's something that somebody doesn't have a teenage child or a child period and be like, what the hell? What does that matter? You know what I mean? I don't care. Talk about strip club, or talk about being a hot boy, or talk about, being a successful drug dealer or whatever, but talking about, how do I discipline my child? But in a not in a cool way, but in a real way. And it ends up being cool because, I'm spitting hot fire, I'm bouncing on the beat a certain way. I'm still approaching it, with care. But that's what was important to me with 21st Century Blues. And to connect to what you said, and this is the longest winded answer, a series of long winded answers.
No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, if we was on TV, they would have put on the music by now. Like, all right, now that was the show is over. But real rap, like the blues, that's what I started off answering. The blues, I had 21st Century Blues as a line in my notes forever. Like I write notes all the time, write lines. Like people say stuff and I write it down. Like, man, that's dope. Or what would you just say? Or I watch a documentary and I write stuff down. Or and 21st Century Blues, I actually mentioned it in a Weekend Money song called Guatemala that came out as a single, was supposed to be part of our last project, never was released. But I say 21st Century Blues, news, always bad news, something, something, something. You know what I mean? And 21st Century Blues, some lines just be lines. You just be saying stuff and they don't mean nothing. Or, not me, but like let me say it better. Some cats just write lines and whatever. some lines, everything means something to me. Like I don't like to repeat things, or when I say repeat, meaning like an empty bar that just rhymes. Like I like it to mean, you know what I mean? Like let's keep the thing moving forward. But then there's certain lines or certain words that could be a whole album title, or could be a movie title, could be a whole thing because it had so much energy to it and means so much to you personally. And 21st Century Blues was that. And what homie said in that article that you just read,
Mm-hmm.
or that book excerpt that
Right,
you
right.
just read, is what it's about. Like the blues is a tradition throughout music, throughout black music. That really the beginning of all this stuff. Hip hop, R&B,
Right, right.
all this stuff, jazz, everything. When
Mm-hmm.
I went to FAMU, Florida A&M University in Tallahassee for about a year and a half, 2 years before I dropped out and moved up to New York with the homies Stick and Moore. I took a class African American music or black music or something. I forget what it was. A series of classes. And as a kid, I didn't know that all American music is black music. Who taught us that? No one taught us that. We
Right.
just listened to stuff. Rock and roll. Rock and roll is white people stuff, and jazz is old people stuff, and hip hop is what I'm listening to. You know what I mean? So study it like I did very well in that class and the classes that followed because it really taught me like the importance of our contribution to American culture and music, American music, and how it's spread around the world. And the blues. Like we're still doing the blues. You know what I mean? Like hip hop is an extension of the blues, but no one ever really connects it. You know what I mean? You have Scarface and Tupac and a few artists that throw the pain in it, and maybe somebody wrote, "Oh, this is the blues," but in reality, like we don't connect back to our rich history, back to slave chants and ragtime and all that. You know what I mean? We don't connect that, and it was important to me to say what I'm doing in this in the 21st century is I'm doing the blues.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a few years ago there was a term called struggle rap or struggle rappers or struggle
Right,
rap where
right.
you talking about, and it was like a mocking thing. It was kind of like how backpackers was like a mocking thing, like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you guys are struggle rappers, whatever. And like both of those terms could be associated with music that I've done. Backpack, like I
Sure,
like boom bap, I like
sure.
whatever, and struggle rap. I talk about the struggle, yeah, but it ain't funny, bro. It ain't funny. Like as a matter of fact, like I don't call y'all clowns for celebrating the excesses of that y'all don't even have, but please don't, marginalize or be condescending to what we talk about because I take pride in talking about the struggle. It's not like I want sympathy or pain. It's like there's pain and there's real stuff going on. And throughout my career, I've talked about it. So I wanted to write a 21st century blues album. And when he says it's about the small stories, it ain't about like superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Like rap is a lot of superheroes. Even the stuff that, that a lot of true hip hop heads and the golden age celebrators and all that, they'll forget that a lot of hip hop is superheroes. Like I love it. Like Karis One was a superhero, bro.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Like Run DMC was superheroes. You know what I mean?
Indeed,
Like
indeed.
it's something to come from the oppressed class. We got a platform for 1 second where people paying attention. We want to be like peacocking, like look at me, I'm the one. Look at whatever. And that's not what I was writing on 21st Century Blues. And a lot of what we did with Airlights wasn't that. Sometimes we wanted to be the revolutionary superhero, like we're the most revolutionary and this, that, and the third. But with time on this planet, circles around the sun, some of that shit just washes away and you start getting into what's really real. I didn't even want to be a revolutionary superhero. I didn't want to be the guy like
Mm-hmm.
we mostly about this struggle. We more revolutionary. Y'all ain't really about it. Y'all front or y'all are ignorant. Like I wasn't. This wasn't about talking down to nobody. About not being involved in activism or being involved in the struggle. It wasn't that, which is a nuance that's super important. I wanted to talk about the small stories
Indeed,
of
indeed.
of the blues, like Ballad of a Broken Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably like a centerpiece of the ethos of this album. Of like, I'm gonna talk about a character that at any other point in music would be where the joke's on. Like, let's talk about this dude. He's a loser. He's a straggler out in the street. His girl kicked him out. His girl's actually selling her ass, and
Mm-hmm.
he had a baby with her, but he's embarrassed that he has a baby with her, and his father's on dope, and he's given up on life, and like I want to talk about that dude because I know them dudes. There's pieces of me in that dude. You know what I mean? Like, not it ain't about me, but like I know that pain. I know that. I know um, friends of mine or people that I know in the community that it ain't a cute story with a tied in a bow that's gonna get put out there. It's a sad story,
Absolutely.
and a lot of us,
Absolutely.
a lot of our stories have bad endings, man,
Indeed.
and
Indeed. Well,
they just fade off.
Ness, this is a great album. I know that in the future works that I have going, there's gonna be more I write about this album. I wrote about it and gave it some detail in my Reel of 2020 book, my
Hmm.
PDF book that I recently released early in the year. It's just a great album. So many techniques, so many rhyme techniques. The choruses, everything just really a go, and Baby J making the music so organically in this fashion, giving it so much grit, um, i- an essential work of these times right now. And Ness, I just want to thank you for really going into detail about this, about this great career you've had and meaningful career
Thank you,
in
man.
sharing this music to us, you know what I mean, and being one of the greatest anthem makers, you know what I mean. I want to thank you for
Thank you,
being
man.
on my show, you know what I mean, and look forward to building again on air again with you, you know.
Brother, we will definitely build again. It's important what you do, man, and I appreciate your work. I appreciate your attention to detail, and like I was saying earlier, pardon for definitely being long-winded, but it's important. And right now, in this time of reflection, we were
Hmm.
talking about brothers and sisters and people that have passed away. It's important to put our story out there, and whether this gets 10,000 views, a million views, or it's just an archive that someone can go back and listen to people that care about the culture. This hip
Indeed.
hop culture is big. It's important, man. It's a platform that can free us, and you know what I mean. We got this. We'll definitely build again.
Indeed. Indeed. Until next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. For my guests, the revolutionary griot of anthemic warrior song, the God Ness. I'm your host, Sunya Zala, aka S.STREET Low, and as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.
Hey.